Yeah, hi, let's talk a little bit about the Telemon Viola Concerto in general. What I thought I'd ask is to maybe talk about what it took for you to prepare for something like this. I know that you mentioned you performed it several years ago. Now you have much more experience as really an advanced, if you want to say an advanced student. Can you maybe talk a little bit about what you've had to do differently perhaps in preparing it this time as opposed to when you first performed it?
Well, just practicing consistently, making sure I play it every single day, making sure, getting the tempos that I want, and just practicing towards that, make it like a goal.
Okay, okay. Do you have any perspective in terms of, you have 4 movements that you're dealing with here in the Telemon Viola Concerto. When you're prepping this, is there a different preparation for each movement? In talking terms of, let's say, the slow movements can sometimes be considered more lyrical, perhaps. Is there a way to approach that in terms of practice, as opposed to something that's much more fast, upbeat, technically maybe challenging in some ways because it's faster for you, or is it you prepare basically the same?
Mental, just prepare it mentally in my head before playing. Obviously, the slower movements have a lot more vibrato to it. It's more lyrical. The faster ones is just mainly technical, like you said.
Yeah. How much pre-planning goes into, and even before you pick up the instrument, how much pre-planning goes on with you in your head in terms of, okay, I'm going to do this concerto now. I'm going to be doing it at a certain time. I have a particular length of time that I need to be thinking about. Pre-planning mentally in terms of the mental preparation before you even got to the point where you picked up the instrument. How much of that do you do yourself, or is there much of that in preparation?
Oh yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
Going back, I have to set goals as far as what I'm going to accomplish and how much time I have.
Can you give us an example in terms of what kind of goals you set within a piece?
For example, the first movement is slow. Shifting, the shifting from one note to the next has to be consistent, and the bow, what part of the bow you're using, for a certain part, and then the counting.
Vibrato, you mentioned vibrato itself. You have to determine how much vibrato to use in certain places, maybe how little vibrato. I'm curious also because there is also a perspective when you're dealing with something from the Baroque era, the perspective of, do we perform it in a much more romantic style, or do we go back and perform it in, as they sometimes refer to as an original performance piece? How do you equate that in your own mind in terms of how you want to approach it? Do you think about that, or is it more like...
With the Baroque, I just think less vibrato, but it has to be consistent. It's not as like playing the group romance, that's very lyrical, lots of vibrato,
Right.
It's different with being Baroque.
Right. Now that you're performing this, as I said, you're a much more experienced player, obviously. As you think back to when you first performed it, what are the differences that you're sensing? Because that's been a few years ago when you did this. What differences do you feel in terms of how you did that then, how a student, maybe a younger student, would perform as opposed to a much more advanced and experienced performer now?
I would say the first time I played this when I was in high school, I didn't put much thought into it, as far as chord progressions and as much as I do now, or having to worry about, having an orchestra accompany you, and now, you've studied the score, know who's coming in where, and just, you have to be with the orchestra also, as a soloist, they do follow you, but, at the same time, you have to know what's going on.
Right, you have to make that connection in terms of, as a soloist with the ensemble that's behind you itself. What are your goals beyond this then? When you do this becomes a part of your repertoire, basically, when you perform. What other pieces do you envision yourself prepping in the next couple of years in terms of viola literature itself?
Probably the Stamitz Concerto D major.
Okay. And are you already familiar with it in terms of you've played through it before?
I've played through it before.
And how would you describe the differences technically in terms of what that is as opposed to this?
With the Stamitz, it's a lot more shifting, a lot higher. The slur, it's actually one of the passages is really difficult, is going octaves, you play octaves, going up all the way to 8th position, so that's challenging, that's different.
What drew you to the viola? Because you're technically marvelously proficient, obviously. You could easily say, this sounds like a terrible thing to say, but you could easily say, why not violin, for example, And the viola, we've joked about the viola having sort of, the viola jokes, and people kind of always harass the violists or the viola is the instrument itself, which is actually a marvelous instrument. At least that's what they tell me. But what drew you to the viola as opposed to perhaps to a cello or perhaps to a bass or violin?
Well, I remembered back when I was in elementary school, the high school went over to play some pieces, and the director asked each person from each section, or a person from each section, to play something, to show off their instrument. And I heard the violin and I liked it, but then I heard the viola and I liked it better because it was more mellow sound, But it's a pretty versatile instrument, So I just fell in love with the sound.
Well, you're obviously, as I said, you're quite proficient on it. What goals do you have professionally?
Well, I'm going to be teaching. That's my goal, to teach high school students. As far as playing, maybe just keep playing with the symphonies that I play.
Tell me a little bit about where you see yourself in 10 years, for example, besides the teaching. Do you see yourself already working as a music educator and leading an orchestral program? Marvelous. The Telemann Viola Concerto is probably one of the most popular viola concertos. It's one of those concertos that when you think of viola, you think of, in terms of literature, you think of this being one of the standards of the repertoire itself. I've heard this played, not only by someone who's very, very talented, but even sometimes as far down as a middle school, a talented middle school student. It's that kind of a standard in the literature itself. And so you have people coming to a concert with great knowledge of this concerto. In other words, there will be people, at least there'll be string players. If no one else, there will be string players that will know this piece. And so sometimes it's a little bit like doing the Eine kleine Nachtmusik. Everybody knows it, so you go in, you conduct a piece like that, and you're thinking, boy, I hope it goes well, because the moment something doesn't quite link up well, or if you do something a little different that you think might be kind of nice, immediately it's like, wait a minute, it doesn't go like this, or why are you doing that? Is there any kind of feeling about that? Not trying to make you nervous about it, but you know what I'm saying, because everybody knows it and they're kind of anticipating certain things about it.
I'm just hoping to do a good job. I think I'm interpreting it the way most people know it as, and do my best.
I don't know if you realize it or not, but one of the great ancestors of Telemann will be there that evening. So I just thought I'd mention that to you, not to make you nervous. And he has the original score. It's the manuscript. Well, I think it's marvelous. I think you're doing a great job, and we're really, really encouraged to have the opportunity to do this kind of a concerto with the Opus Chamber Orchestra, and to have the opportunity to kind of show students what it takes to kind of put a concerto together. What you and I have done today is we sat down at the keyboard, and roughly at the keyboard, and accompanied you. The reason behind this is basically to give you an opportunity to play, give me an idea of what the tempos are going to be before I get in front of the orchestra, and try to transfer that information to them. And also to work out some details in terms of like where are you going, what are you going to do in the cadenzas, for example, where are you going to slow down, these kinds of things. It saves a tremendous amount of rehearsal time in front of the orchestra, because time is so precious in a rehearsal. So this is kind of the rehearsal before the rehearsal kind of thing. So we're really glad to be able to do that. You're feeling good about it? I'm glad you are. No, you're doing marvelously. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to do this with us, and of course playing with us.
Thank you.